Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys. Fresh back from the Trumpapalooza. That was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
I'm not so sure that some of those political types really received our message all that well, but some of them did. I think we're...
Hopefully they got the message that we're not going away.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for on FAIRtax Power Radio, to encourage people all across the country to do something similar. If there's a political event going on near you, and it doesn't matter which party or which candidates or who's putting it on, go there, be seen, get something from the FAIRtax logo store so you can do this to them. And do that. So we're grateful for the opportunity to go down there and talk to these politicians, and hopefully that can inspire others to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll get the FAIRtax passed.
And we do need your help with this. All right. The volunteer. Yeah, we have a lot of volunteers around the country, but we also have 320 million people in this country.
Yes.
So we need your help to reaching out to them and the politicians.
Okay. Well, speaking of volunteers, let's change the order a little bit, and you can do your grassroots corner.
Okay.
Jim Bennett likes to focus on various volunteers across the country that are helping the FAIRtax. We like to help publicize them as well, so have at it.
Jim Bennett is a director of, he's on the board of directors for the Americans for Fair Taxation, and he is their grassroots coordinator. And this one is from October 4th. Are you a FAIRtax supporter without company in your state or congressional district? Are you unsure of what to do? Would a mentor help? Well, we have one. Paul Livingston, Jacksonville, Florida, and Paul is on the board of directors for the Florida FAIRtax. He's a tireless worker for the FAIRtax. Has started helping leaders in 2 states get a FAIRtax ball rolling, and he's willing to help you too. Okay, Paul Livingston is district director for the 2 most active congressional districts, 4 and 5, in one of our most active FAIRtax states, and that is Florida. We are a very active group here. I asked Paul to reach out to our leaders in Mississippi and Tennessee, and Paul did that. All right. Paul has a problem solution method of getting people to listen to and absorb his message. All right. He is eager to share his method with Dr. Tony Urbanek of Tennessee. And Dr. Urbanek, or Tony, has been receptive. Tony's goal is to get, and this is good, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn to become the FAIRtax co-sponsor in the Senate. That would be good. Yeah. Marsha Blackburn was a co-sponsor when she was in the House.
Yes.
I remember that. A very strong FAIRtax supporter. So since we don't have a bill in the Senate because they haven't been able to find a primary sponsor. What about this one? What about that one? So she would be a great one.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Work on her, and maybe we can get Rick Scott here in Florida to do to go in with her.
So Paul and Tony are planning a mass email and call to action message. Adam Yomtoff, there is that name again. Adam Yomtoff has a database of almost 533 FAIRtax supporters and volunteers in Tennessee, and they can do an email blast, so they can be reached. And they've got Adam's email address again. I want tax reform at gmail.com. That's Adam Yomtoff. Now, what about Mississippi? All right, Paul has also offered his assistance to Dr. Andrew Myrick of Mississippi. Dr. Myrick has become active there and is reaching out to his senators and Congress member. There are plans for Paul to reach out to the in New Hampshire too. Do you know anybody in New Hampshire that might help? This is the type of thing that we need our grassroots people doing. All right. And if you need some help, if you're interested in getting things rolling in your state or your area and so forth, contact Paul. Paul for FAIRtax, paulforfairtax@yahoo.com. And I'll put his phone number there too, 904-419-2478. All right, Paul is a tireless worker, also a volunteer. He's been at this a long time, longer than Bob and I, and he's very knowledgeable and he's very hardworking. So, and if you have anything you want to send to Jim for the grassroots report, it's jim.bennett at fairtax.org. Jim.Bennett@fairtax.org. And that's our grassroots report for this week.
And if you want to talk to us, it's thefairtaxguys@gmail.com.
Yeah.
FairtaxGuys.com, without the "the" on the front of it, is the repository where you can see all of the previous FairTax Power Radio episodes. The current one you can click to right from the beginning, then you can get into the archives and see the other ones. But we are going to have some more fun today. We have mentioned several times here on FairTax Power Radio how the IRS just runs roughshod over the original Bill of Rights.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Especially the one that just sticks in my craw is talking about the Bill of Rights gives you protection from unreasonable search and seizure.
Yeah.
And if the IRS is not engaging in unreasonable search and seizure on a daily basis almost with their civil asset forfeiture stuff, you don't have to be convicted of any wrongdoing. They can just kind of maybe halfway suspect that you're doing something wrong, and they can come in and grab your bank account. They can put liens against you. They can take your home if they want to. So, yeah, the IRS runs roughshod over the Bill of Rights, and we've been over that many times. Yeah. So what have they done? They have issued their own Bill of Rights that they go by. We're going to take it apart. This is going to be fun. This is from the Taxpayer Bill of Rights versus the real Bill of Rights.
Did you notice they labeled this as Publication 1?
Publication 1?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't notice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they apparently it's very important to them, Publication 1, because they have, I don't know what, 1,200 different publications?
Who knows?
So the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Oh, this should be good.
Okay, go for it. The right to be informed.
The right to be informed. Okay,
that's number one.
Taxpayers have the right to know I'm going to read this off the computer. It's easier. Taxpayers have the right to know what they need to do to comply with the tax laws. They are entitled to clear explanations of the laws and IRS procedures in all tax forms, instructions, publications, notices, and correspondence.
The only problem is they say they're entitled to clear explanations of the laws. If you ask a dozen different IRS agents the same question, they will give you a dozen, maybe halfway clear answers.
Yeah.
You talk to the IRS, you don't get the same answer from the IRS. It just depends on who you're talking to.
And studies have shown that 50% of the times, the answers you get from if you call the IRS agents on the phone, 50% of the times, they're wrong, because they got 76,000 pages of tax code and court decisions to be. Who can possibly be on top of all that?
And something on page 16,437 conflicts with what's on page 68,862.
So you may be entitled to clear explanations, but are you actually going to get that from the IRS?
Yeah,
it's very doubtful.
I wouldn't think so.
Because I don't think it's humanly possible.
No. Number two, you have the right to quality service. Taxpayers have the right to receive prompt, courteous, and professional assistance in their dealings with the IRS. Now tell that to the guy that's knocking on your front door and says, "I've got your bank account seized." Or "I'm taking your home," or "I'm garnishing your wages." They have the right to prompt, courteous, professional assistance in their dealings with the IRS, to be spoken to in a way that they can easily understand. Again, to receive clear and easily understandable communications from the IRS. I bet Jade Wally's laughing up his sleeve at this one. Again, Jade is our CPA buddy who's a big FairTax supporter, and we certainly appreciate him, no doubt about it. And and you can talk to the supervisor if you get inadequate service, and the supervisor probably doesn't know much more than the person you were talking to.
I have to say, I had occasion to talk to an IRS agent earlier this year, because I got a letter from them saying that what I submitted for 2018 was wrong, and I thought, that's not wrong. It's, we don't have that much. So I called the agent and I said, I did send this in, and so forth. And she was very nice. She was very nice, very accommodating, so forth. And actually, while she was looking stuff up on my account, I looked at the check that I had sent them and realized, oh, they are right, I am wrong. Okay? Yeah, they were correct, because I was including a check from a different year. Anyways, I'm not going to get into it. And but she was very nice, but she was trying to look it up, and it wasn't quick.
No.
You would think that you'd have all that stuff on the computer right there. But, so, I don't know if she was talking to somebody else in the background while I was on hold or what. But she was very pleasant and so forth. And in that case, I was wrong, they were right, and I sent them the additional money. But I can imagine just what they get with. And we're not necessarily busting on the IRS agents because they have an impossible job, all right? The rank and file agents that you talk to on a regular basis or irregular basis, but some of the people in the leadership that we've heard about over the years, yeah, we're not too happy with them.
Oh, I love number 3, the right to pay no more than the correct amount of tax.
Well, what's the correct amount?
Well, that depends on who you ask.
Yeah, exactly.
We've mentioned this before. Money Magazine did this back in the 80s. They gave the same hypothetical family's financial information to 50 different tax preparers and got 49 different answers as to what this family owed.
Yeah.
So, and the problem is that if what you think is the correct amount of tax and what the IRS thinks is the correct amount of tax, guess who's the judge and jury of that decision and who gets to resolve that conflict?
Yeah, and if you think it's a serious matter and there's a lot of money involved and you want to take them to court, well, then you have to bear the expense of taking the IRS to court. Now, sometimes the tax courts do agree with the plaintiff and they rule against the IRS, but how much will it cost you to get that kind of a decision?
I don't know.
Most of us can't afford to do that.
As taxpayers have the right to pay only the amount of tax legally due, including interest and penalties.
Yeah.
And to have the IRS apply all tax payments properly. Why don't you just get rid of the IRS? You apply your tax payment when you buy something, end of story. That's the way the FAIRtax works.
Yep.
So, I love this. The right to pay no more than the correct amount of tax, but who gets to decide what the correct amount of tax is?
Yeah.
You're not going to get the same answer from other ones. Okay, go ahead now.
All right. The right to challenge the IRS's position and be heard. That doesn't mean they're going to decide in your favor, but you have the right to be heard.
They're supposed to listen to you anyway.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we heard you. Okay, thanks, bye.
Pay up.
Taxpayers have the right to raise objections and provide additional documentation in response to formal IRS actions or proposed actions to expect that the IRS will consider their timely objections, and documentation promptly and fairly, and receive a response if the IRS does not agree with their position.
See the above. You're arguing with the judge and jury.
Yeah.
How many times have you won an argument against the judge in a courtroom?
It doesn't happen very much. And, and we talk about the real Bill of Rights, the one that's in the Constitution,
Yes.
The first 10 amendments to the Constitution, and all that stuff about you have a right to a trial by jury and due process and all that.
Yes.
Out the window, because the IRS is it.
Due process and unreasonable search and seizure are the two primary rights that the IRS just ignores.
Yeah.
And they get away with it because Congress has given them the power to do that. That's
right. And that's just one more reason we need to get rid of the income tax and the IRS and replace it with the fair tax. No more income tax, no more tax on your hard work and ingenuity. You would be taxed on what you choose to spend. It's that simple.
All right, number 5 here on the Taxpayers Bill of Rights from the IRS. The right to appeal an IRS decision in an independent forum. Taxpayers are entitled to a fair and impartial administrative appeal of most IRS decisions, including many penalties, and have the right to receive a written response regarding the Office of Appeals decision. Taxpayers generally have the right to take their cases to court. And you have mentioned sometimes the court actually does rule in favor of the taxpayer and against the IRS.
And if you can afford to go to court, then that's what you should do. But most of us can't afford to do that.
Yeah, but how many tax authority decisions are there in the fair tax?
Oh,
there aren't any. This becomes totally moot under the fair tax because there are no IRS decisions to go against you. You pay your tax when you buy something. End of discussion.
It can't be much simpler than that. Okay. Number 6
here.
The right to finality. Taxpayers have a right to know the maximum amount of time they have to challenge the IRS's position. Oh, so you're on the clock, in other
14
words.
seconds.
Yeah. As well as the maximum amount of time the IRS has to audit a particular year or collect a tax debit. Taxpayers have a right to know when the IRS has finished the audit.
Yeah.
Well, that would be nice.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
You have a right to know when they're finished and they're coming after your money.
Yeah. So, but again, it puts the IRS in the sole position as your judge, jury, and executioner. So it's not a good situation. So, but yeah, they can audit you, and they can. It's nice to know that there is a time period. Okay, actually, I was not aware of that. Okay, so it is nice to know that there is a time period. But again, this whole thing is an exercise in futility because the tax code is so onerous and so difficult to understand.
All right. Again, the right to privacy. This is number 7. Taxpayers have the right to expect that any IRS inquiry, examination, or enforcement action will comply with the law. All right. Does the name Lois Lerner mean anything to you?
Yeah.
And be no more intrusive than necessary, and will respect all due process rights. Snicker, snicker.
Yeah. Well, we know
including the search and seizure protections.
Oh.
Now they're engaged in double talk here for that one.
Yeah.
Will provide, where applicable, a collection due process hearing.
You know,
they at least want to give you the impression that they're giving you due process, but they still own the courtroom.
And it's very famous what happened. You know, Bob already mentioned Lois Lerner, forever the face of the IRS and the IRS abuse. Okay, she directed a campaign against conservative groups. It's been duly pointed out the IRS has paid penalties, paid court decisions. They were guilty of doing that. So where was number 7,
I don't know.
at that time?
What strikes me is the text right there under number 7. The headline is right to privacy. Not a whole lot under there talks about privacy.
They were asking all kinds of things.
Because,
what books they read. What I don't know, all kinds of things. It was crazy.
But what comes to my mind when I see that is the people who want to use a certain person's tax returns against him politically.
Oh yeah.
They're okay. We're going after the president's tax returns. We want to see them. We want to make sure. We want to go through those things and see if we can find something to accuse him of.
Yeah. Isn't it convenient that the Speaker of the House said that she wanted to see the president and the vice president's tax returns, but not the number 3 in line for the presidency, which would be the Speaker of the House. Yeah.
And California
somehow it stopped at number 2.
California is now trying to pass a law out there that says you cannot be on a presidential primary if you have not released your tax returns. Folks, tax returns are private, confidential information. This right to privacy, it is a sham.
And you got to believe that if there was something wrong with a politician's tax returns, the IRS would let people know about it. All right, they would. I mean, it would leak out. Look at all the leaks that are coming out of Washington now.
Yeah.
All right, there's no question that people would know about that. So
if you want to have real privacy in your tax dealings, why don't you just pay your taxes anonymously when you buy things?
Yeah.
And nobody knows. The government knows how much is collected. They have no clue how much comes from any individual. They don't care how much any individual makes, how they make their money, where, excuse me, or anything like that. What'd you put in this cheer wine?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, but yeah, with the FAIRtax, you have the ultimate privacy because it's completely anonymous.
Yeah.
The government does not know who is paying the tax. The tax is collected from the vendor as a percentage of what they sell. End of story.
Yeah.
And if there's an enforcement action, they go after the vendor, not the individual.
Exactly. And I like the part there that says, including search and seizure protections. Oh, really? Where were those with the civil asset forfeiture? Okay. I'm glad to see that Congress has taken steps to kind of rein that in because IRS was abusing that, and the the terrible thing about that is that the IRS was using this civil asset forfeiture, where, as Bob said, they don't even have to accuse you of anything. They just think something's wrong and they seize your bank account, okay? Terrible for small business people. That has trickled down to like state and local levels, and a lot of those people are using civil asset forfeiture. Young man's traveling across the country, he wants to go to Hollywood to make it big, and for some reason he's carrying cash instead of, putting the money in a bank, and he gets stopped by the police and they seize his money. No reason. They don't have to. So it's not a good situation. So that civil asset forfeiture, that flies in the face of what they're saying in number 7. So I find this hard, to take this honestly, yes, to think that they're really behind this.
And number 8 actually makes me think that they're really stretching to try to come up with 10. Because number 7 says the right to privacy, the number 8 says the right to confidentiality. Now, what's the difference between privacy and confidentiality?
Yeah, that kind of sounds similar.
That sounds like they're trying to get 2 points out of one idea here. Under number 8, right to confidentiality, taxpayers have the right to expect that any information they provide to the IRS will not be disclosed unless authorized by the taxpayer or by law, or unless somebody politically wants to get your tax return and use it against you. Taxpayers have the right to expect appropriate actions will be taken against employees. I think Lois Lerner retired with no problems, didn't she?
Yeah.
Return preparers and others who wrongfully use or disclose taxpayer return information.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got to laugh at that one.
Taxpayers have the right to expect appropriate action against employees. Well, that's not happening. We've seen reports where we have IRS agents who are still on the job who are delinquent with their taxes.
Yeah.
How does that work?
That's insane.
Oh my gosh.
All right, moving along here. Number 9.
It's really hard to take this stuff seriously, isn't it, Bob?
Yes, it is. Especially when you compare this, the IRS's Bill of Rights, with the real Bill of Rights that they don't want to go by. Number 9, the right to retain representation. Oh. Taxpayers have the right to retain an authorized representative of their choice to represent them in their dealings with the IRS. Taxpayers have the right to seek assistance from a low-income taxpayer clinic if they cannot afford representation.
Now, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Imagine under the fair tax. Does anybody even talk, for instance, in the state sales tax? 45 of the 50 states have a sales tax. Have you ever heard of the situation where somebody who paid the sales tax and then the state came after them, the consumer, and they had to get an attorney? We've never heard of that situation. As Bob said already, if the state sales tax organization has a problem with a vendor, they go to the vendor, not to the taxpayer. I mean, the taxpayer goes in, buys something that the tax is added on there, it's done, all right? They've done their duty. It's up to the vendor to make sure that money gets to the state. It'll be the same thing with the fair tax. You go to the store, or and you buy something, or you pay for a service. The fair tax is included in the cost of that product or service. The vendor collects it and passes it on to the state, and the state passes it on to the National Treasury, the Federal Treasury, and that's it. Are attorneys involved? Not with individual taxpayers.
That's what I said. We need to come up with a FAIRtax Bill of Rights. And number 9 would be the right to not need representation.
Yeah, the right to have a tax system that doesn't involve that nonsense.
There we go. This one just knocks me out. Number 10 on the IRS's Taxpayers Bill of Rights: the right to a fair and just tax system. Does the IRS want the fair tax?
Apparently.
Taxpayers have the right to expect the tax system to consider facts and circumstances that might affect their underlying liabilities, their ability to pay, or ability to provide information timely. Taxpayers have the right to receive assistance from the Taxpayer Advocate Service if they are experiencing financial difficulty, or if the IRS has not resolved their tax issues properly and timely through its normal channels. The right to a fair and just tax system. It's right there. Well, actually, it's not black and white. It's this writing is in blue and white and black.
Yeah.
The IRS says we have the right to the fair tax if they want us to have a fair and just tax system.
Because that's
case closed. End of story.
That's the only way you're going to get a fair and and just tax system is to
can-
get rid of the income tax and to put in the fair tax.
How can a tax system that takes 70,000 plus pages to describe is chock full of loopholes and deductions for special interests? Last time we looked at Congress.gov, there were over 1,100 proposed changes to the tax code in this Congress alone. Fair and just, forget it.
So,
or what Sonny would say, forget about it.
yeah,
right?
forget about it. And in a recent chairman's report that Steve Hayes does and Bob records and so forth, he was talking about the fact that with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, the standard deduction has increased such that the vast majority of people are taking the standard deduction. They're not itemizing. Their tax return is a lot simpler and so forth, but they're not able to take advantage of some of these deductions that the very wealthy people. So it has become even worse. All right.
Yes.
So
I love this. We ought to give the right to a fair and just tax system. Tell everybody that the IRS is in favor of the fair tax.
So obviously they are in favor of the fair tax if they are really serious about number 10, because there's no way the income tax is fair and just at all. All right, not at all.
And we need to get rid of it and replace it with a fair tax. And you got
now you can see what I got on my computer.
Yes,
it's the real Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights.
Yeah. Article 1, Congress shall make no laws respecting establishment of a religion, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging freedom of speech, the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and so forth. Obviously, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there's a lot in here that the IRS has been authorized to ignore the Bill of Rights. No due process, all right? No protection from unusual search and seizure. No guarantee of a trial by jury. All that stuff is
no
gone.
Presumption of innocence.
No presumption of innocence. That's the one I was trying to think of.
There you go.
All that stuff. No, in spite of what the IRS's Taxpayer Bill of Rights says, if the IRS comes after you, you are guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent. That is upside down with the Constitution.
Yep.
And the only way we're going to fix this
is to jerk it all out by the roots and replace it with a fair tax.
That's right.
Which is taken enforced at the vendor level, not at the individual level. The fair tax doesn't care how much you make, doesn't care how you make it, doesn't care how much you spend. You pay the tax when you buy things. You can't evade it.
Yeah.
It's just there. Okay, we haven't talked about PopVox in a little while.
Oh, yeah. PopVox, POPVOX.com, popvox.com. It is a website in which, and we encourage you to go to popvox.com and sign in with your name and your address. That way the system knows what congressional district you're in, so they know your representative and your 2 senators. Then you can go search out any legislation like H.R. 25.
How about H.R. 25?
Yeah,
that'd be a
H.R. 25, yeah. The Fair Tax Act of 2019. And you can make comments on whether you're for it or against it. Now, we know everybody watching this is in favor of the fair tax, okay? So let's just recognize
about a 98% approval rating.
So, yep.
But the actual numbers are fairly low. We still need people to go out there on PopVox, because again, the Congress critters, the Congress critters themselves don't look at this all that much. They've got too much to do. But they do have staff. Every last one of them has at least one staff person who keeps an eye on that thing. So not only do they get a feel for what their constituents support and what their constituents oppose, they get an idea for what things are valuable to them. What are they thinking about? So an item like the fair tax, if it gets a lot of comment on PopVox, hey, people are thinking about this. If people aren't talking about it, then the Congress critters don't really care about it.
Yeah, so we need more people going there. Last, I think it was around something over 400.
Yeah, it's close to 500, I think. But
okay, and
out of 320 million people in the country, that's
we can do better. We need
to show people that it's a hot button issue, that it's something that people care enough about to make the effort to go to PopVox and make a comment about it.
There's a couple things you can do too. Not only can you go to HR 25 and click that you're in favor of it, you're in favor of it. You can make comments. I mean, it's up to you. It's optional, but you can make comments on why you like it and so forth. Those comments will go to your congressman, okay? And when we get a Senate in the bill and whatever Senate bill that is, you can do the same thing on that side. The other thing you can do is go search out other tax proposals, like flat tax proposals, and you can say why you're opposed to it and why it won't work. Because the flat tax will not stay flat any longer than the Congress that passes it.
Nope, you're right.
So anyways, there's a couple things you can do on PopVox, okay? So You've got your homework assignment.
You do.
Yep.
Your next homework assignment is to go to the logo store.
Yep, FairtaxLogoStore.org, FairtaxLogoStore.org. Well, you got these nice palm cards here and I'll put the cutaway image up there. They got good information about the FairTax and some websites and so forth. You can get a package of these things, like this, and you can keep those, put a bunch in your car, put some in your purse, put some, wherever in your sport coat pocket and so forth. Have them with you, and if the FairTax comes up as a topic of conversation, you've got some ammunition, okay? And I forgot to put my FairTax prebate cards in my pocket. I'm really unprepared today. All right, but anyways, they do have a business card size. We call it the prebate card. Basic information about the FairTax on one side and the prebate schedule on the back side. Those are a very popular item.
And real quickly, write letters to the editor in support of the FairTax, and call into your local talk radio shows. And,
lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff. FairtaxLogoStore.org. FairtaxLogoStore.org.
All right, that's going to wrap up this edition of FairTax Power Radio. Thank you again so much for watching and listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
Again, we're the FairTax Guys, reminding you that the FairTax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you will demand it.
So what would you do for her?
We've got several programs that will help her. We just need to find out how much she makes. But the good news is, the less she does, the more we can help.
Yeah.
If I may, with the fair tax, we wouldn't even tax her income. So the more she makes, the more she has.
But still, a consumption tax could eat up a lot of her income.
Which is why at the beginning of every month, we're actually going to give back all that she pays in taxes on basic necessities.
You're going to give her back her taxes?
Every month. On everything taxed on basic necessities. But we're also going to give it back to you and to every American citizen.
Why?
Well, we believe taxes should be fair.